Well, after almost 3 solid weeks of cold and very, very wet conditions, it's time to blow and go. We already behind 2023. We gotta play a little catch up here. All right, while I'm waiting for my RTK guidance to boot up, going to try and explain a little bit better what I'm doing out here. I had a few questions in several videos ago when I first started doing my burn down strips, so I'm trying to be a little bit clearer. Firstly, what we're looking at right here is a hooded sprayer. Typically been used in no-till cotton production for a while to spray herbicides up underneath the hoods to kill the weeds. And that allows us to spray while cotton is growing with herbicides that would normally hurt the cotton, because we're spraying just up under the hoods. The hoods shield the cotton plant going down the row from any kind of herbicide. Now, while we still use it for that purpose during cotton season, we're also using it for another purpose, which is to do our burn down strips. Whereas in our cover crop, we are spraying herbicide in this drop nozzle in between the hoods to kill an 8-inch wide band in between the hoods, while letting the hoods protect the cover crop in the middles from the herbicide and preventing it from dying. And what this does is this gives us a nice 8-inch wide band that we can then come plant into with very little residue, very little interference with the planter and accurately placing seed, while allowing the cover crop to continue to grow and get a lot of biomass, which gives us the benefits that we want. Now, we previously started doing this, like I said, it was almost 3 weeks ago, and other than a few hours one day, we haven't hardly been able to be in the field with our hooded sprayer doing our burn down strips since then. So we're coming back over here to finish up the farm where we started, and I'm gonna give you a look at what the burn down strips that we did about 3 weeks ago, what they actually look like. All right, here's a look at the ones we did about 3 weeks ago. As you can tell, it looks like they're dying pretty nicely, which is actually a little surprising to me, considering how cold it's been the last 3 weeks, how wet it's been, and lack of sunlight just hasn't been real good growing conditions for the cover crop. And in those types of situations, herbicides just don't seem to work too well. But it looks like it's doing a pretty good job. As you can tell, it looks like it's well on its way to dying. Whether it will completely die or not, I'm not sure. We're just going to have to wait and see. But if it doesn't, all we did was about 10 acres right here the other day. So if I need to come back and retreat this, I can, and it's not going to be a big deal. But where the confusion came in in our last video of spraying was one commenter questioned, well, why would I leave the cover crop growing in the middle while I've got cotton or whatever else growing in the rows, because wouldn't that compete for water, nutrients, and other stuff? Now, this viewer would be correct if the cover crop was going to still be living while I've got a cash crop growing here. It's not going to be. See, we're still about a month away from corn planting. We're about a month and a half away from cotton planting. So what our system is going to allow to happen is for the cover crop in the middles to keep on growing and acquire a lot of biomass, but the rows where we're going to be planting into, the strips, is going to be dead, to where there's going to be very little residue right in this real narrow band. Now, when we come in here with our planter, whenever that may be this spring, well, we will then terminate the rest of the cover crop, and by then we should have accumulated a lot of biomass. So we're going to have cotton planted here, and I mean, this stuff is probably going to be, you know, waist tall, chest tall, just depending on how the growing season is for the next month and a half. But I fully expect there to be somewhere 6,000–7,000 pounds of dry biomass per acre out here. That would equate to somewhere between 30,000 to 35,000 pounds of wet biomass per acre. And then when it's time to plant, we will then come in and terminate the rest of the cover crop, and that way there will not be anything competing with our cash crop out here then. But we will have some real nice strips to plant into real easy. This is basically the same concept as strip tillage, except we're using a herbicide instead of a plow to prepare our seed beds in the row. All right, everything ought to be booted up, but now let's see how much ground we can get covered. It's still pretty wet out here, pretty soggy, but got a lot of roots in the ground. And even though it's wetter than what I would like, I'm not, I'm definitely not going to be causing any ruts, and I'm not really worried about any kind of compaction either. I sure wish I could give it another day to dry out, but it looks like we've only got about maybe a 4-day window now before the next storm system comes in, and these cover crops are, it's real warm. You see, I'm out here in short sleeves. High is going to be mid-70s today. These cover crops are really going to start taking off vertically and acquiring some biomass. And we got to get these strips sprayed. Otherwise, our system is just not going to work as well as it normally does. So even though conditions aren't ideal, we got to cover some ground. Yep, we are RTK. All right, let me pick up where we left off the other day. We're just about done with this 60-acre farm. Only got probably 550, 600 acres left to go. Well, happy Sunday to y'all. Yes, we are out here on a Sunday way too early in the growing season, but due to the recent weather, we just don't have any choice. We gotta play catch up. I would most definitely much rather be in church this morning, but the good Lord has blessed us with a beautiful day today, and we're going to make the best of it. And yes, I'm out here by myself today. Andy's got the day off. Really don't have anything for him to do today. This is just pretty much a one-person job. He's still got about 80 acres of wheat left to spray, but I haven't decided if I'm going to spray or not. That wheat has started growing and a lot bigger than when it was a week and a half ago when we got rained out, and really don't know if there's going to be any point in spraying herbicides on that 80 acres. It's not bad, eat up with weeds, so I don't know, hadn't decided yet. But anyway, he can do that tomorrow if I decide to spray. And then my lovely bride is somewhere off the coast of Baja, Mexico, on a cruise with one of her real good friends, kind of a girls trip. Every year I take a guy's trip with my friends. We go to the mountains, go riding somewhere, and she also has the opportunity to go visit some of her friends, whether they go on a cruise or go visit another part of the U.S. don't get to see very often, but she'll be coming back here in a few days, refreshed, probably have a real nice tan, and she'll be ready to get back to work. But you can tell these, if you remember from my previous video when we got started spraying these strips, you can tell this cover crop has really come a long ways. Even though the conditions have been cold and wet, they're definitely starting to grow rapidly. That's a good thing too, because I mean the name of the game is biomass for us, but too much biomass can definitely cause issues with cotton planting especially, and that's going to be our main concern. Get that nice clean strip to be able to accurately place the cotton seed about a ½ inch in the ground and give it the best chance of coming up. There's one of our wheat fields right there, man. That's some, that's some good looking wheat there. You can tell it's got that dark green color. Started picking up a taste of that nitrogen we put out the week before last. And man, that stuff, that's got a lot of yield potential right there. Still got a long ways to go, but I mean, that could be some 90, 100 bushel wheat pretty easy, as long as we don't have too hot of a May. That could be some dang good wheat. Starting to get excited. I mean, we got good prospects this year, starting off good with the wheat crop. Now that field right there is the one that we have not yet sprayed with a herbicide or fungicide, and you know, just looking at it, you know, that wheat's probably close to 10 inches tall. I mean, there's no weeds out there that's going to compete with it now, and plus even getting coverage on the weeds that's out there, the henbit, Carolina geranium, I just don't know how effective it's going to be. Plus that harmony that we got to put in the mix can be a little hard on the wheat. Doesn't really damage you, but it can be a little hard on the wheat. It can rob you for a bushel or two. So I got my doubts if we going to try and spray that. The ideal time was definitely a couple weeks ago. We just flat out ran out of time in between storm systems. One other thing I'm doing while I'm spraying is making notes of problem areas in the field that I need to come back and do some dirt work on. Just like that wash going down into the creek, it's gotten a little bit bigger over the last couple of years, so I need to bring the dirt pan over here, bring a loader and dump a load or two of dirt in there to kind of fill that back in and keep it from washing back out. So yeah, I've already got a list going of stuff I need to fix on the few farms that I've gone over so far. So not just sitting up here going back and forth and watching Hulu, we also seeing what things need to be done to the fields, because this is my first eyes on a lot of them in 4 to 5 months, and a whole lot has changed since then. Unfortunately, we kind of seen another problem pop up. You know, for years, you know, I've been using chicken litter on most all my farm ground, and real big fan of it. And we've actually got some hauled out to some of our farms this year. Probably 300 or 400 tons, maybe about enough for half of our corn acres, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get anybody to spread it or not. The guy I normally buy it from and spreads it, I don't know what's happened to him, but he really ain't giving me a straight answer on at all this year. And last I heard, he's kind of been sold out to somebody else and is working almost exclusively for them. I don't know that for a fact, but another guy, the guy I'm actually buying the litter from, the guy he uses to spread it, because we've had so much rain this spring and hardly any good dry days to run. They're so far behind on spreading, I don't think he'll be able to come spread mine, or at least not in the time frame that I'm needing to spread. That guy I'm buying it from hooked me up with another guy. He can definitely get out here quicker, but he's still about 10 working days behind, and we're about 2.5 weeks away from wanting to plant, and finding 10 working days in that 2.5 weeks gonna be kind of tough. So we might actually have to delay planting a little bit in order to get my litter spread, and that's only just part of the ground that we're wanting litter spread on it. You know, the rest of the ground we hadn't even got it hauled out here yet, and I don't know if I'm going to or not, because I'm having such a hard time finding somebody to spread it. So might have to be going with strictly commercial fertilizer on a good part of my acres this year, which I really don't want to do, because it's going to kind of be breaking the cycle of using litter every year and the benefits we're seeing. Now, the benefits aren't going to just drastically fall off in year one, but I don't want to miss a year either. So anyway, this morning I started looking into and researching the idea of me buying my own spreader, spreading ourselves, which I really don't want to do, Because I mean, you get that smell in your tractors, and you won't get it out. It'll be there, all year long. Plus, it's very time consuming because you're always having to fill up because you're putting out such a high volume per acre, and that's just time in the spring. I don't know if we got or not. We might just have to find out a way to make it work. And then also the cost of the spreader. Haven't been able to find any used ones here locally. I have found several new ones in surrounding states, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, but they're not cheap. The one that I'm looking at buying would be a BBI bed. BBI was actually bought out by Salford. And anyway, a new one, a 20-foot long bed, which will hold probably somewhere around 8, 9, maybe 10 tons if it's heavy litter. Gonna run me in the ballpark around $42,000. With what I'm paying to have my litter spread, yeah, I could make my money back. But again, we're getting in the situation just with time and labor on getting it done with everything else we got to get done in the spring. So I don't know. I got some tough decisions to make. Litter spreading is one of the very, very few things that we actually farm out to somebody else. And you see how busy we stay with everything else we got to do. I mean, when you're having to go fill up the spreader every 5 acres or so, I mean, it takes a long time to. What the heck's up with my GPS? Anyway, it just takes a long time to get the litter spread. All right, got something else interesting to show you. You see that bare spot where there's no grass right there? Well, just a few short weeks ago, there was a big red hay barn sitting right there. And you see it's sitting up here on top of this hill with nothing obstructing it to the horizon. And I think it was the first weekend of January. It's whenever I was going on my guys ride in West Virginia. I had a really strong line of severe storms come through. Kelly says it's the strongest straight line wind she's ever seen her life. But I heard reports of 80 plus miles an hour winds, and then that barn sitting broadside to that wind up here on top of the hill caught every bit of it, and it actually blew the wall, the west wall, actually blew it in and pulled the post and the concrete out of the ground and basically just folded the barn over this way. Surprisingly, yeah, it knocked it down, but it did not, the actual walls and roof did not do hardly any damage to it, and the landlord was able to basically sell the building. All the tin, the metal, and everything was still good and straight on it, and the landlord that owns this property was actually able to sell the materials off of it and recoup a lot of his money, because the barn hadn't been used in 4 or 5 years now, and it wasn't insured anymore, so he wasn't able to collect any insurance money. And I mean, it's not a big loss to the owner because he's retired. They no longer do cattle, don't even need the barn anymore. And where it's positioned, I really couldn't use it for anything, so basically it's just been sitting empty. A pretty bad situation actually worked out pretty good. Got land cleared off now that I don't have to drive around that barn spraying and planting whatever, just plant right on through it. Didn't have to clean it up myself. Somebody else came over here and cleaned it up, and then actually paid the landlord some money for their loss too. So actually worked out pretty dang good for all parties, believe it or not. Well, we've been running pretty hard for about 3 days now. Well, we knocking on the door of getting our cotton ground done. We got about 75 acres left on this farm. They'll have all our cotton ground done. Then I got maybe about 100 acres of some corn ground where the cover crop actually survived. We're probably going to do some burn down strips on it if the weather doesn't chase us out before we get it done. But I just got a report from one of my neighbors. Apparently some folks in the area started planting corn today. More power to them. I wish them the best of luck, but as you can tell, I'm still in short sleeves. My neighbor checked the soil temperature this morning around 7 o'clock and it's 45 degrees. Conditions ain't right to plant corn yet, in my opinion, or at least it's not, or at least it's not on our ground. So I'm still pretty happy our corn seed's in the bag and probably going to be in the bag for several more weeks. So we still got a lot to do before we can put some seed in the ground. We got to finish up our burn down strips. We got to spread fertilizer, hopefully get some chicken litter spread. Got a little bit of dirt work to do. And we've had a few good days running here this week, but I think next week's not looking too good. There'll be a lot of weather, a lot of rain come in from what the long range forecast shows. So anyway, hope their corn comes up and they're successful with it, but I can just about guarantee that their corn won't be ready to harvest very much earlier than what mine will. I think mine being planted in better conditions might not yield as good, but I think he'll do. I think he'll do a lot of catch up during the summer. At least that's the way it normally seems to work. So anyway, another couple days on this and we'll have this job wrapped up. Well, today it's Friday. We've been running real hard since Sunday, and we've about got our strips done, but I don't know if we're gonna get done before storms roll in. We got perhaps the most severe weather forecast that we've had all spring long so far. So let's go ahead and check the NOAA weather forecast, see what they've updated with.
Here is a weather synopsis for the Mid-South region. A significant severe weather event is likely this afternoon and evening across the Mid-South. Damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes, a few strong and long tracked are expected as storms move from west to east across the region.
Look, y'all seen the one a minute ago. We got set up here in our storm shelter, ready to get in there at a moment's notice. There it is, right over there. You can kind of see that bottom edge of the wall cloud right in there. Luckily, it just went just south of us. Here, tornado sirens going off in Gaston. A little late now. Just the first of what could be several storms tonight though. Well, thankfully the storm passed. You can see it off there in the distance. However, we're probably not done with tonight. There's more just southwest of Memphis. Gonna come straight up I-40 looks like. So we're not quite done with tonight yet. Hopefully we are, but maybe not.
Hey Ryan, visually this storm near Jackson is not done. This storm near Jackson is not done. I think it's trying to cycle. It's going to try one more time.
Okay, That was Storm Chaser Chris Hall. He is up there near Jackson, Tennessee. He says that this storm is not done. It's going to try one more time, and I happen to agree with him for the most part. It does look like there's a big new area of inflow coming into it. This might reinforce the rear flank downdraft. We might see some more rotation here, and that hook's going to kind of extend out in front of the forward flank. We still have a supercellular mode here. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. The crazy thing is it's going to move right towards this camera. So if we're going to see a tornado, it's going to pop out somewhere right back in here. Wow. Yeah, you can see the rotation right there.
Here's the cold front coming through. Man, that wind is whipping, and there's still some rotation with embedded in the squall line that I'm pointing at. Of course, we'll never see it. Pretty impressive lightning display, though. All right, hopefully the last line in the storm, we got a new rotation that's popped up there in Bells, coming up, looks like it's gonna go just south of Gadsden, headed right for us. Don't think there's anything on the ground, but probably most likely a different wall cloud, and it's strengthening as we just saw in the last radar loop right there. Keep an eye out here. Better get in a safe spot for the next 10-15 minutes. There's a tight spot, not warned yet, but it's right on top of Bells, and it's strengthening and heading right towards us, and it looks like it could form something at any minute. All right, bye. No, we're not going to shop. If it's anything, it's going to be weak. We'll be fine in the hallway there, but it's heading straight for us. I don't think there's anything on the ground, but it's gotta be there's definitely going to be a wall cloud that could drop something. Yes. Huge thanks to Ryan Hall and his team for doing everything they do. He's going on 8.5 hours live stream, keeping us aware of everything that's going on with the weather and where everything's at. Huge thanks to him. If y'all don't watch him on YouTube, I highly suggested when it comes to severe weather winds, just look up Ryan Hall, y'all, and he'll let you know exactly where everything's at. All right, guys, we survived the night, thank goodness. I'm not gonna lie, I was about as nervous as I've ever been when a storm comes through. That same cell that destroyed Wynn, leveled Brighton, and hit Covington is the exact same one that was making a beeline up towards our place, and it was the only supercell in sight, and absolutely nothing to choke it off, and no reason for it to keep on going. But luckily it weakened when it was probably about 5 miles from our house. Looks like it lifted, and you know, there was definitely wall cloud, still rotation, but there was no funnel on the ground when it went just a couple miles south of our place. And then I had a couple more storms come through real close. One that went just north of us and really blew up when it got on past Milan towards Huntington and everything, got really serious, missed it, and then had one last cell come through that on the couple radar swipes before it made it to us, looked like it was strengthening and could put down at any time, but fortunately it didn't. So thank the good Lord we got spared last night. We don't have any damage. I'm out here today, the day after. We only got like a ½ inch of rain. Wind's been blowing pretty stout. Sun's out. Dried our fields back up. So I'm going to try and get this burned down finished. But everybody, please, if you don't mind, say a prayer for the folks in Wynn, Arkansas, Brighton, Tennessee, and Covington, Tennessee, because a lot of folks had their lives changed forever with the storm that came through. They weren't nearly as fortunate as what we are. But fortunately, with the technology that we got nowadays, you know, we don't have to depend on the weatherman. If you take the time to study radar and learn how to interpret it, you can see exactly where the storm is and where it's heading, which really played a huge part in keeping us safe last night because we knew exactly where the storms were and where it was coming. And if it hadn't lifted weekend before it got to us, we were definitely in our safe space, probably one of the safest spaces we could be in the surrounding area. Well, as you can see, we about got our contraption rigged back up to get this finished because it's a Saturday. Went by a Tractor Supply store to try and find just a simple 1/4-inch barb fitting. Tell you what, Tractor Supply needs to change their name from Tractor Supply Company to Suburban Supply Company. There ain't nothing in there for farmers that we can use. Their choice of hose fittings was laughable. It's like 5 different things I could choose from, and none of them were remotely close to what I needed. So I had to go to Lowe's to rig this gem up right here, but it's not a permanent fix, but it should be good enough to get me by for today, which is all that matters. And farming, the name of the game is just rig it up to get it done, and then fix it properly when you have a chance. Let me get this back up here where we don't rip this hose barb off again. All right, guys, well, I appreciate y'all watching. I know most of y'all don't care all that much about spraying videos. I don't really care all that much about making spraying videos, but hey, it's part of what we do, and we show everything on this farm. Hopefully here over the next few weeks, we'll be getting into a little bit more exciting stuff. Hopefully, you know, won't be much more shop work, and we'll be able to see you, and we'll be able to show you what you actually want to see. Us putting in the 2023 crop, because it's right around the corner. If we can just get a good stretch of decent weather, we'll be ready to blow and go and get this year kicked off again. Anyway, guys, appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you in the next one.